Ponytails podcast. Here we go. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ponytails podcast. My name is Andres Gamboa, and I am one of the hosts of the podcast. Nice to have you. Episode 101. Can you believe it? We made it past 100. Here we go. Boop, boop, boop. And climbing. And of course, we're rolling on. We are actually booked out all the way through May. We have a lineup of guests that is super exciting. And if this is your first episode, welcome to the show. Happy to have you on here. We are now on the air. If you don't know, if this is your first time, basically, this is a podcast about people who sold books door to door, like educational books to help kids with homework. If you ever had somebody knock on your door, that's what this is about. It's kind of a cult. It's not really a cult, but it's kind of a cult, and it's really, really fun. We had a good time. It's a crazy experience. 80 hours a week. They recruit college kids to go door to door all summer long from all over the country. And there's like 150,000 odd people or something that have done it. And of course, I myself, Nick Taverdi, my co-host, and everybody on our team has been, and every single one of our guests has been, and that's what brings us together. So throughout the episode, you might hear some interesting lingo, you might hear some funny words, some strange language. We'll try to explain that as it comes along if you are not familiar. If you sold books and you're listening to the first time, welcome to the show. Hope you have found us in a cool way, and hope you're having a good afternoon. We record live on Thursdays at 7 Central, and then Sundays usually at 4 Central, but we're book people, so we're flexible. Today's guest I'm excited to bring up, and she'll be on in just a second. But before that, a couple of updates on Sizzler. Of course, if you haven't heard or if you haven't listened to the episode and some episodes in a while, and you're tuning in for the first time in a minute, on August 15th through the 19th, we're going to Cancun, to the Riviera Maya. It's at the Valentine Hotel and Resorts. Big, nice 5-star resorts. It'll be from August 15th through the 19th. And it's going to be a networking event / just a get together of alumni of Southwestern who want to come and party with us. And of course, network throughout different alumni and that we've been able to bring together through our show. Of course, we're not affiliated with Southwestern at all. The only thing, again, that brings us all together is that we all sold books door to door. And so in order to prepare for Sizzler and for the Sizzler trip, we are excited because we're working with Elevate Wellness. Guys, I got my ass kicked this week in my workout, and these guys are doing a great job of helping us get into shape. So if you're out there listening to this and you want a good, healthy, trusted system of getting into shape, Elevate Wellness is the way to do it. It's ran by Seth Hood, Joe Ignace, and Zane Gallagher, who's still actually selling. And all three of those guys are super, super knowledgeable, not just in the fitness world as far as the workouts that you can do physically, but as well as the emotional side of it and the nutritional side of it. So a lot of my healthy weight loss and really just resurgence in good fitness has been because of the way I've eaten. And Seth has been I mean, I meet with him weekly. He's been able to help me out and get prepared for Sizzler. So get a hold of us. You get a big ass discount if you use us to get to them. And I would highly recommend it. Honestly, a healthy mind and a healthy body is what's been able to help me get through this year, and with so much stuff going on with the podcast and personally. So that's awesome. Also, big shout out to Historical Park in Bulgaria. If you haven't heard about these guys, it's a group of people. Not all of them are book people, but some of them are, and they're all looking for investors into this billion-dollar project. They've raised several hundred million, I think, at this point, phase 2 of the project, and they created a historical park that is to the letter exactly what life was like in Bulgaria throughout the different empires that have conquered it in the history of Bulgaria. So Roman, Greeks, Ottoman. Go check it out, Historical Park Bulgaria. You'll get a ton out of it. We are also brought to you by Will Metscher. Will is a coach through Southwestern Consulting. Very, very good at what he does, and honestly, one of the favorite jockeys that we have, just because of the energy that he brings to every one of the meetings that he's with. If you are looking for someone to help you kind of get a little bit more direction in your sales, get a little bit more perspective, and not just your sales, but really in your life, could not recommend a better coach and just really friend than Will Metscher. They are also looking he's looking for coaches or people who want to be coaches and help others improve their lives and their work environment and their work performance. From personal experience, I can tell you just the growth that we've had in the show recently has been because of Will, in a large part. So I'm happy to be working with him. And so with that, make sure you reach out to us. We will get you in touch with Will. There are a lot of really good benefits, and honestly, just to have that contact in your pocket for a lot of different reasons, it's a good option to do so. So make sure you reach out to us, and we can get you in touch with Will Metscher. Now we can bring you to our guest, and I'm super excited. So we have an 8 summer book chick. I've one of the things I love about this show is most of our guests I've actually never met before, and it's super exciting because Marji is the same way. Like I've ran into her through Instagram. We reached out, and she has this business called It's Not Trash, which is a furniture company. They do design for furniture. It's beautiful. Go check them out on Instagram. Highly recommend it. She'll be talking about a lot more about the details. We notoriously do not do pre-approach, so I'm excited to learn more about it and just organically get to meet her. So she sold 8 summers in the early 2000s, and even before the show, we were just having some good stories. We were sharing some good stuff. So I'm excited to have her come on there. She has some really cool accolades, 1,500 unit week in her career. And she obviously had some top performances. She has her superstar book with her. And so with that, I'm going to bring her back on the air. Here we go. Hello. How's it going, Marji?
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks for doing this. This is kind of cool.
Thanks. I'm glad you think so. We thought so too, so we figured we'd go for it because nobody else is doing it.
Well, that's how we have a tendency to do things like that.
Yeah, it seems like it, right? Where are you? I know you're in the Pacific Coast. Where are you coming to us from right now?
If you had a protractor and you wanted to make a circle around LA, you'd stab my house.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Yeah, mid-city.
That's amazing. That's LA is kind of crazy right now, isn't it? Or has it been because of that flu that was going around a couple of years ago? The last couple of years?
Yeah. It's been a little lockdown-ish. I think it's pretty chill now, though.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are going out to dinner and being normal again.
It's nice, isn't it? I live in Portland, and so I feel like your city and my city are like the two cities where it's like, if the mask mandates are removed here, then it must be okay.
Everything is now, because I think like just recently I go into supermarkets and there's like, it's more like a 50-50 now, which is, I'm like, I don't know. We always wore a mask when we went on planes and traveled, my wife and I, just because we're like, we're in a tube of people and we're going on vacation. Let's not get a cold. So we were already on board with like, what does it hurt? But it is kind of nice that there's parties and things happening again and people hanging out and you can see people smile.
Yeah, it's a good vibe. It makes you feel a little bit back to normalcy. People are at the food carts again here, and they're walking their dogs on the street. Portland, the first time I visited was actually right before we hit the pandemic, literally like March 7th of 2020, like right before it really shut down. And there was people out, and I was like, "This is a cool town. I want to move here." And then I moved here, and then none of that.
It is a cool town, though. I've gone and visited something. My wife used to have a training thing through her work every summer, which is when you should go to Portland. And we'd spend like a week and hang out, and really good food, man. Really good food.
Oh God. Yes. That is a huge vibe around it. Everything's local, everything's fresh, everything's like organic, everything's very, very granola type vibe. And I'm about it. I'm about it for sure.
Yeah, I can get on board with that kind of food.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's dive in. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Thank you for being here. Getting to know new book people is always a fun time, and so I'm looking forward to the time we get to spend here and kind of get to know each other. So let's. I always like to start at the beginning. We don't have to do this, but I always like to start at the beginning of like, who the heck were you? Who was Marji Medina? Before you got recruited into this crazy thing for 8 summers. Let's rewind the clock. Where were we? Who were you? How did you get into Southwestern?
Well, it was Marjorie Nelson.
That's right. Okay, fair enough.
So I took my wife's last name. We're both M&Ms, and I was a little bit. I was one of those hometown recruits. Like they're like, is there anyone you know that you grew up with? And like, maybe ask. And so Andrew Howard, I went to junior high and high school with him, and he came home and he's like, hey, I did this summer internship and I made like $8,000 in the summer. And this was the opposite path. A huge fence post moment, you know, that one where you like 90 degrees and you're like, oh, okay, new direction. I had just got back from Costa Rica, where I had my senior year of high school. I saved up, took my EMT course. I wanted to be a paramedic and then eventually become a PA. And that's the direction I really wanted to go. So I had an aunt in Costa Rica that I had met twice that had said if I finished high school, then I could go visit her. I had come from a poor family. I'd never even been to an airport, let alone on a plane. And I like dial up internet, found her phone number. It's like, beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, hey, I'm your brother's kid. I want to go learn Spanish because, you know, I'm going to be in California. And so I worked for the Red Cross for like 3 months in Costa Rica, learned Spanish, delivered a baby, did CPR and infant adult, all this super cool stuff, you know? I got back in AMR, emergency medical response, changed from 18 to 21. And that was the major like place where I could work as a paramedic. So then I applied to the local hospital and like, back to that, you know, sexism shit that used to go down. It got down to between me and this one other guy, and they called me in and they're like, you know, you're more qualified, but you know, he's bigger and you look 16. So we're going to hire him. And I'm like, okay. And so I was like, crap, that's how I was going to pay for college. Okay. And plan B, I ended up starting a swim program, and I was like trying to figure out what I was doing. And then Andy rolls in and he's like, I made all this money in the summer. I'm like, that's how I'm going to pay for college. And so it was his, you know, first year manager, and he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. And he just, everything was very kind of half-assed. Like, you want this? Sure. Hey, dude, are we still doing this? Yeah. I'm like, do I need to fill anything out? He's like, oh yeah, have your parents sign this thing. And I'm like, okay, mom, sign this. And then I'm like, okay, well, what do I need to do? I'll get back to you. And then, you know, I'm like, hey, the summer's coming. And then he's like, drive to San Luis Obispo to this guy's address. And so like I drove this guy's address, and he said the next day I'm going to be driving out to Tennessee. And I didn't know this guy. He's like, here's a pillow. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm on his couch. And then we woke up the next morning and we start driving out. And because I was in the junior college schedule and he was with San Luis Obispo schedule. So he had already left. And so like, I kind of got dumped in with these other kids. Or no, I went out with him, but the junior college kids had already left 3 weeks earlier. So I lost some of my summer. I only had like an 8-week summer. So I drive across the country and people are like, how's your sales talk? I'm like, how do I get one?
Yeah, no, this is like the worst case scenario to keep someone.
So, try to keep someone. I was just like, okay. And just like, and then I got done with sales school, trained with all these people. And then they just put me out. They're like, well, you know what? You should maybe be with these other people that are going to finish the same time as you, sort of. But I was the only kid from my region, so I still wasn't on their same junior college schedule. So I get dropped into, girl's name was Martha. I don't remember her last name. Everyone had quit. She was like a second or third year manager. And so they're just like, here, move. Here's a new first year for you. You lost all your other ones. And so I just
being herded.
Yeah. I was like, be smart enough to be dumb enough to do everything they tell you to do. I just worked every week, like, and then I think it was my last 2 weeks she went home. So I'm by myself first year doing the book dance in the parking lot, eating bread, like by myself. I did the book dance by myself because I was so brainwashed. Like still taking a cold shower, like cult level brainwashed. Like this is what I've got to do to be successful. And then I like got to the end of my summer and I'm like, hey, how do I deliver my books? And like, did you order them? And I'm like, no, how do I do that?
No clue.
Somebody's like, let's get this chick her some books. So then I just kind of like made it up, and then they're like, I get to checkout and they're like, did you fill all this? I'm like, what stuff? Like,
No way.
no records. But I was top first year, so it all worked out in like 8 weeks. So
My God. I had no idea. Well, that just goes to show that like you can do anything as long as you put the time and effort to just try, and really like and really be coachable. I mean, we've had a lot of 101 episodes in, you can imagine we've had a lot of recruiting stories, and not often do we get one where it's like the manager was not involved. Nobody was really like, you should have fell through the cracks,
Is an amazing guy, to be fair, and is a great father today. Top first year, his first year, top in managers every year, like always did well. But like, I just think that like, he was, out of 4-year college, working hard with a bunch of people. And then I was just kind of like an afterthought, like over here back in his hometown. And like, I wasn't smart enough to go to like, big college. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
But you crushed it. I mean, wow, what a time. So let me ask you this, because there's a lot of reasons why you should have quote unquote failed, right? I mean, there's most people that and I recruited full time, so I'm just speaking from my at least experience where I would recruit someone, and if you didn't stay on top of their parent work, if you didn't stay on top of their like making sure they're training right, you didn't stay on top of how they got to sales school and how they were like rooming in this situation. Like some people you have to really guide. You were kind of bouncing around like a pinball machine type of vibe. What kept you going? Was it like the just the money part of it, or what made you kind of go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this well?
So I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and I grew up in a 1-bedroom house. My parents had the living room. I shared the bottom twin bunk with my sister Katie. Like I only ever had my personal space was a dresser. And I just knew from an early age, I knew I didn't want that. Whatever this lifestyle is, I mean, we stay within our socioeconomic bracket most of the time. And I didn't want that. I wanted that 2.5 kids white picket fence at that point. That's what I thought I wanted. I wanted Leave It to Beaver. I wanted to marry some guy who came home with a briefcase and like had a 401k, whatever that meant, but I heard it on TV. Like, and I knew the only way I was gonna, be able to do that was to go to college. Like I did, the reason why, kind of skipping ahead, the reason why I did 8 years of selling books is because I was in college for 8 years and then finally dropped out. I still don't have a college degree. But I kept going, trying to finish. I found out later that I have some learning disabilities. That's not really my jam, and that's fine. A lot of really cool people don't have college degrees. But I knew that was the way out of poverty, was education. And to go to school, I knew I needed money. And that was a lot of money. Like I said, I listened earlier when we were talking, I listened to Kate Walker's, and she's, her sister's boyfriend or whatever, and he made all this money. And so she's like, I want that money. Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
I wanted to pay for my books and pay for my tuition.
So it sounds like it wasn't like necessarily money, but it was more like the idea of something different, something better for you.
I wanted to be around those kind of kids too. Like I wanted to be around kids who mom and dads were lawyers, and that they they went through the thing and then they signed up for colleges and took the SATs. Like, I'm like, I want to be around those people. How do I get around those people? Because like, that's how you copy those people. I didn't have anyone in my immediate sphere that was worth copying.
Yeah.
Because I did what they did. You know, we always say if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got, or you always got, or something like one of those phrases. Like, I knew all those birds of a feather flock together. Those people hang out. My parents didn't have any friends who had careers. Everybody has had jobs and they were hustling paycheck to paycheck. And then there's these other people who did that. And I'm like, how do I find those people?
Right. Well, wow. So this is so, do you mind if I dig into this? Cause this is cool. I love what you're saying here. So your whole life, you have this lifestyle, right? And then you go into this world of Southwestern. Cause I remember, and I guess it's more like a question on like the culture shock of sales school, right? Cause I remember in my life, I didn't grow up with money much myself either. And I remember the first time I went to sales school, I remember seeing these people and they were wearing these like sharp suits and they were talking very well. And like, it just really struck me. What was that like for you? And what kind of like belief barriers were kind of broken when you realized that this was now possible, right? How was that like for you?
I mean, this is so long ago. I mean, this is in 99. Like, I just remember, I guess my mind was just like, if Andrew Howard can make that much money, then I can make that much money. like
that's the best answer. That's the best answer.
If he can do it, I can do it. And then Eric Jafari was like a manager at the time, which I mean, I know he's pretty legend in the stratosphere
of the world of Southwestern.
I remember he came out my second year when doing my first interviews, and he was looking at the way I dressed, and he says, "You want to be a people attractor, and you've got it." And that, like, it's so funny how there's so many layers of things that you don't know as like a poor kid to like fit in or to make it. And like, he started ripping apart my clothes and being like, you're not going to attract successful people if you don't dress like a successful person. And I was like, light bulb, what? Who knew? Like, that didn't make, and I was like, you asshole, you're telling me I look like shit, but also like, fuck, that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
that makes sense.
So like, we're saying is like people with suits, like I didn't even associate that with success yet. Like, wow, I was so behind that. Like, it was just, I was digesting the simplest things.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Because there's like, you know, and you look at like marginalized communities even today, you know, or like people who grow up, you know, with financial struggle. I did a stint there. I still kind of do with Primerica. It's like a finance company, and they teach people about like financial literacy, right?
Yeah, it's poor people investing.
Yeah, and so it's like you sit down with someone and you're like, some people, right? And you talk about interest and 401ks, and they know what they're doing. But most people, you go, hey, like,
your car is a depreciating asset that is got reoccurring costs. It's not.
Even that's too far. Yeah, but even that's too far. Like you got to be like, do you know what interest is? And they're like, no. Like, do you know how it works? Like, if I give you a loan at like 3%, do you know what that means?
No,
they don't know. They have no idea. And it's crazy. I mean, this is supposed to be the most educated country in the world, and like, this is the kind of stuff that really, like, knowing this.
It's not stupidity. It's ignorance.
It's ignorance.
Like,
yes.
We're taught, you know, how to do math and, you know, what happened in World War II, but no one teaches us in school about money itself and like using it as a tool. And so we're doomed to make the same mistakes as our parents because you're taught about finances through your parents. And if your parents are poor, then don't fucking listen to your parents about money. Like, they're wrong. And so, like, I knew that. I knew my parents and my grandparents and my aunt and uncles, I knew they were all wrong. I don't know how they were wrong, but I just knew that whatever they were doing, I didn't want to do that. And so Southwestern was my first experience in the rule of 72 and like
Yeah.
saving money and like I learned, like I read Rich Dad Poor Dad because of that. And like Southwestern taught me how to use money as a tool.
Yeah. How money can be used, correctly and set up incorrectly. I love what you said there, how like your parents didn't, like, it's not even their fault, it's just that like they didn't know. I think on that too, Southwestern also for me taught me how to ask for help from the right people, right? Because for example, I love my parents to death. They're divorced though. My dad's been married 4 times. Mom was on her second marriage. So when I think of them, I don't go, hey guys, what do you have for marriage advice?
Yeah, how
You
do
know what
I
I'm
be a
saying?
successful like husband? Like your dad
I
might
don't,
not be that guy.
I'm
Like,
not gonna,
he'll
he's
tell
a
you
great
what
man.
not to do.
Yeah, correct. He's a great man, and he's by in his own right, he's learned things through it, right? But like if I want to get good marriage advice, I should probably go to someone who's been married for like 70 years. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I made it
Because
through
it's
the
like
edge.
you know about marriage that I don't know about marriage. But at the same time, on the other hand, if I had to ask my dad about advice on how to persevere, how to not give up, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
he's the guy to go to because he's like the king of that. I mean, it's a whole thing. So Southwestern though, they did teach you, or at least me,
Yeah.
right, how to ask the right help from the right person, which is key, you know.
That was a big aha moment for me with Southwestern too. And I was like trying to find her name, and I can't remember her name. And she was Asian, and she hung out with Kaya Grady, and I don't know why I can't remember her name, and it's bugging me. She sold a ton of books, but I remember there's one sales close, probably like my 4th year or something like that. And I was like, okay, if you want to do well, then find somebody who does well. And she was at sales school, and I just went up to her first day and I said, hi, I'm Marge. I'm your shadow unless you tell me to get lost. I'm going to pee when you pee, and I'm going to eat when you eat, and I'm going to listen to every demo you do, and I'm literally going to follow you this entire sales tool. She goes, excuse me? And I said, you sold a ton of books. I want to sell a ton of books. You're somebody I find relatable that I feel like I can duplicate. And so like, unless you tell me to get lost, I'm like literally your shadow. And she's
Beautiful.
like, okay, weirdo. And I like full blown stalked her. Like, we became friends after that. And it's like really bugging. I probably haven't talked to her in like over 15 years, but just things that I would have never even thought of. Like, you know, like they teach you to do your buying atmosphere, and then you find your needs, right? And you ask questions, and then you roll into your demo. And so I would find their need and then just show them that thing. And she taught me, she's like, we sell all of these things, and always just open up with, I sell everything. If you want to buy the bag, let me know, and like plant that seed from the front end. And I was like, shut up. It's amazing. And like consequently, I sold, and like just other like statistics that I never even thought of. Like, you've only got so many hours that you can work, or you're going to put yourself into fatigue. And if you can only knock on this many doors, you can, and say you got a demo in every single house and you had a 50% close, if you're only selling this many units per house, you're only going to ever hit this. And it was like such a weird, because I'm like, how the hell does Kaya Grady sell like this bajillion amount of, and I'm like, oh, she sells everyone the bag, because she just thinks everyone should have the bag. And then if they just buy, you know, a set of kids books, then cool. But pretty much she leads. And that consequently that summer, I'm like, and you're going to buy all of this.
And then.
Yeah. And then that's how you have 1,500 units
in a week. And you get,
because you just assume everyone's going to buy everything.
That's right there. Even if like, we only had to pull, because I like to pull like a minute out and then post it on Instagram of like a couple of pieces of golden nuggets. Even that alone right there is enough.
Like, why wasn't I showing everyone the thing? Instead, I was just like, okay, you have smart kids. I'm just going to sell you this smart thing. And I'm like, I don't know. A birthday's coming up for their nephew, and then they've got this, and then they don't have to go. Like, they're fucking BFE Farmville. It's going to be like a full 3-hour drive into town to go to the bookstore. Like you just get all the books right here. Like, but you get so in your microcosm, your bubble. And then a huge wisdom nugget that I got is like, it is not our job to say no for other people.
Oh.
What kind of ego trip are you on that you think that you can say no for them? Our job is to present them with information and then let them make choices. And if you're hiding information from them, then you're making decisions for them. That's not your job.
Oh, I wish I had like a sound effect that was like, yeah, because that's so true. That is so true. Golly, did you learn that actually on the book field when that happened, or was it somebody else that taught you that? How did you learn that lesson? Do you remember?
No, I don't. No. Like it was something on the book field, but it was just like, and I was definitely like, Eric Jafari always said, be a student of the game. Whatever game you're playing, be a student of that game. And so like so I didn't learn how to read until I was like 16, and that's a whole nother story for another time. But
wow.
I did figure out books on tape. And so I listened to, like, I always had a car. And I listened to books. My Sunday after I, did weekly meeting was to get to the library to get my books on tape for that week. And I had different, like, whether it was like, listening to Mort Udley or different speakers or whatever that you do on repeat, but I had different books. So when they gave you all those books in sales school, I was like, can't read that. Okay, how do I find myself at the library? So, and then I would just listen to it in between doors.
Brilliant. Wow. I remember on what you said, there's like so much good stuff to talk about here. So on what you said there, I remember when I learned that lesson, I knocked on the door, and in my head, I'm like, there's no way these people are going to buy. Like, no way. Because I was judging because they looked poor, or because of the house, or because of the things that they were driving, or the clothes they were wearing. And I remember judging them on that. And I learned that lesson of don't say no for them, because they bought the whole bag. It was like the first time I ever sold the whole bag. And in my head, if you looked at the house from the outside, you'd be like, there's no way they're going to buy the whole bag. And then you just kind of show it. They keep asking, and they care. These people care. These people that I met cared about their kids' education, and it was important to them that even if they didn't use the books, their kids witnessed them caring for their kids' education. And so they purchased everything. Your mom bought?
I actually let the kid in.
Whoa! Tell me this story. This is so cool.
So a kid knocked on the door, and like my house, I was just like, "Come in," and he's like, "Hello," and I'm like, "Come in," and he's like, "Hello," and I'm like, "I'm not getting up to open the door. If you're coming in, come in." I remember saying that because I was like, we were like the neighborhood, and there's 5 kids, and then all the other kids came to our house, and I'm like, "Mom, some random kids here," and she sat down and did the demo, and my mom did save up the whole summer because like. My mom got married at 16. She doesn't have a high school education, but she knew that education was important and that she couldn't help us. And so these were going to help her help us.
Right. Of course. How old were you? Do you remember?
Probably 10.
No way.
Yeah.
You're a student of the product.
Yeah. So like when Andy, showed me what it was, I'm like, well, if my mom can afford to buy them, anybody can buy them. Like, so like that whole, like that actually helped that like, I was just like, well, they could buy it. I mean,
no
anyone could buy them.
That's so cool. And
like, so my mom didn't even have a job, she was just an at-home mom.
And she saved up and she got it for you. Then she showed you the value of education. Right there. Look at that. Even if you never used them, who's to say if you did or not? But
I know my mom did use. I know we did use them. We probably didn't use them as much as we thought we were going to, but we definitely used them because we still had encyclopedias.
Right.
Going to be 44 this month. So like I said, when I started, dial-up existed when I was in high school. So,
good old dad. Hey, get out the phone. I need to get on the internet.
Exactly.
Good times. Good times. Oh my gosh. Wow. So wow. So much good stuff there. So you go into this whole thing. Did you know you wanted to come back? I mean, because you ended up coming back for 7 more, but did you know you wanted to
Yeah.
come back after that first one right away? Or was it like did you have to
Yeah, it was just
kind of
how
think
I was
about it
going to pay for school. So I needed to do it every summer
every summer?
to pay for school.
Genius. Genius. Wow. And then did
That
you
I
ever
didn't
bring
finish.
teams?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I actually had the top, one of the guys that I hired a guy that was a top first year.
Nice. So you started building a little base there. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was always like 3 to 6 people. It was never like a ton of people. But it was like my last summer, almost everybody made it to Sizzler. So
Whoa. Did you get to go to Sizzle after that first one?
I did a Sizzler every year. I never missed it.
Nice.
Yeah, that
How
was,
was that?
are you kidding me?
How's that
There's no
first
way.
one?
What?
How's that first one? Never leave
Okay,
it.
so that leads into the story. So if Kate hasn't seen this one, Kate Walker, then somebody tell Kate to watch this, because this is a core memory in my life forever. Slightly traumatized, but definitely happy about it. And it was a totally weird moment, and she has no idea. So
We'll tell her to watch this.
So
Here we go.
again, I'm from like a 2,000 person town, like junior college, like very like small town sheltered. I'd been on a plane once in my life before this, and we're going on a cruise, and we got to fly into Florida, and that first night before we get onto the cruise the next day, everyone's like, let's go out, and so South Beach, and we're gonna go have fun. And then you hear about like the greats and the people that are like super awesome, and Kate Walker was known as one of those people. And we're out at some club, and we're all just dancing, and like I'm dancing with her and other people, and like somehow I'm not even sure how I ended up with her at this moment. And I probably was a little bit buzzed at the time and very new to alcohol. I was like barely 21, and I was like a solid square. Like I didn't try alcohol till I was 21 and a half. So and like I remember she's like, I want to go get pizza. And I'm like, okay. And she's awesome. So I follow her, but we lose the rest of our group. And then some guys start talking to us, and then she's like talking to them. And then we've got to get a cab home, but I don't know how to hail a cab. And so I'm like, wherever she's going, and I don't even know where our hotel is. Okay. Because I went with another group of people, or even the name of our hotel, or how to get back. And then, she's talking to these guys, and then they're like, yeah, I know that hotel. We'll give you a ride. And she's like, sure. And then just gets in these dudes' car. And I'm like, okay. She's older than me. And yeah. So we're like in these dudes' car who's supposedly going to be driving us to, and they weren't like older, creepy guys. They're just young, dudes in their early 20s. Like, and it's like 2 blonde girls, and they're like, yay. And, we're sitting in the back, and the one guy says, I don't even know how it came. It was just creepy dude shit, because you guys are all creeps. Not all of you guys, but, lots of guys, especially 20-year-old horny guys. And said something like, have you, ever kissed a girl? And she brings up a story about how she did once with her boyfriend. And I'm like, no. And she turns to me. She's like, do you want to try? And I was like, no. And I was like petrified, because I'm a full-blown closeted, like Christian lesbian, trying not to be gay. This hot blonde chick wants to kiss me. I'm in full panic mode, and I'm like, I'm in a strange guy's car. This girl's trying to kiss me. Can we just get to the hotel room, please? Anyways, and I go, hot chick wanted to make out with me. And she is the first girl that ever wanted to kiss me that I know of. So thank you, Kate. Anyways, amazing. Full panic, though. Full panic. I was like, how do I get smaller into the back seat of this Honda Accord?
Oh my gosh, this is a crazy story.
But
First
I
of all,
mean, she
I thought
went
you were
to
gonna
like
get
a bigger
kidnapped.
college, and this is like there's all these jokes like, oh, I came out in college, or I tried kissing a girl, or whatever. I'm still like small town closeted gay woman, and like so she's just like, haha, sorority, I'm gonna kiss her. I'm like, no.
Yeah, because in Sizzler, that's like normal. That's like not even weird,
Yeah, like
for or
there
like
was
in a college
there was no
environment at that age.
malice. Like it was not like, but from my point of view as somebody who's like just absolutely petrified about my sexual orientation and trying to make that go away, I was just like, ah.
Shit. But oh my gosh. So
So
then
anyways, thanks, Kate. I bet she doesn't even remember this moment because it's so not important in her life because it was just like a whatever drunken evening.
yeah, like we've all had those moments.
Yeah, it
Shit.
wasn't
I mean,
like
I kissed a guy. It wasn't a big
yeah,
deal.
it wasn't a huge moment, but like mine, I was like, oh my God.
Wow, that's crazy.
I avoided her like the plague on that cruise. Like I saw her come around the corner, I went the other way.
Golly. You had a mask on. Literally.
I was like, oh my God,
no. Oh my gosh. Wow. And also like back in, was this what, 1999, 2000? You know, it
yeah, this is
wasn't like
99. Yeah, and like at that point,
it's not cool to be gay. It's like that. It was still
no.
taboo, right? Like the movement.
Yeah, no,
has
there's
made
two
such
girls in
huge
my high school
strides.
and they got
Like,
made fun of.
I mean, yeah, it was not okay. That it was like you don't. That's not something that you did
And
openly.
definitely
Wow.
not, I mean, not small town, no.
Oh hell no. No, yeah, no. I grew up partly in Nebraska, and you know, small towns, like I've been to small towns, America, and whew, you don't that it still doesn't fly today, you know. It's still
Yeah, no,
weird
I
to
don't
them.
think I would have sold as many books if I wouldn't have, if I would have been like, yeah, and my girlfriend, they'd be like, get out of my house, cover your ears, children.
Wow, that's wild. But you knew at this point that you were lesbian. Like you knew that you were attracted to
I didn't
women, and
actually
so
come out till I was 26 to myself, and then in
oh,
27.
wow.
Yeah.
That must have been
I
a
mean,
powerful
and
moment.
Southwestern is a pretty Christian organization.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they are now compared to what they were, but there was like, we all like prayed in the morning, and like
Oh,
the sweat who I was with was pretty Christian as well. So yeah, I mean, they started as a Bible company. So
right. Yeah, we had who was it? I think it was, I can't think of who it was now. If Nick's listening and you can comment who it was, we had a person who was like the first openly gay person in the company.
Omar,
Well, Omar, I don't think he was the first openly one, or he might have been, but like it was the first time that somebody had been like, no, this is like, it was known, and then it was cool. But I feel like today they're a lot more like, they don't really care about it, you know. Whereas maybe back in '99, that was like a, you know, because that's just the culture of the world that it was at the time, anyway.
I didn't. I knew like Omar, and then
Yeah.
towards the end of my summer, there's a top first year named Brandon Stiles. He's my best friend today. There was like some guys that I knew. There's several guys, but I still to this day have never met a woman who sold books that was gay other than me.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I was like, I don't know. Oh, actually, I do know. So we've actually had, you're our second person who is a gay woman on the show. Katie Grassi was a person she sold my first summer, and she came out and everybody knew.
What year did
open.
she start
That would have
selling?
been 2012, but I think she was already out.
Yeah, because I was done in 6.
Oh, and Alex Berman. That's right. Alex Berman also. She was on this last episode, or on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think I listened to part of hers.
Yeah, for sure.
Soccer.
Yep. Alex, and then well, so Nick just commented. So Anthony Conroy was the first openly gay person that was dating another person in the company.
They pushed when I was there to keep like, they wanted Omar to keep things a little bit hushed, like, you know, tone it down, you know, like it was still not okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that. So then for you, it must have been terrifying. So yeah, so we have so we've had on the show, now that would be of the LGBT community, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 4 or 5 now, because Omar was on the show, and that's crazy that it's so hushed up at that point in time.
I
Like
remember
that,
the first time I met Omar. It was a GRS, and like that. I don't even know if it's a dance club there or whatever anymore, but they're like straight down from where they do the hotel that we always stayed at next to the stadium. There's this like 2 or 3 story dance place, and like he's such a good dancer, and I break dance and pop and lock and salsa and merengue and do all that stuff. Like Omar are both big dancers, and I was like, and we like hung out and danced the whole night. It was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, I love Omar. That's the same way.
And I knew, like, from like that, he's 100-footer. Like you're like, oh look, there's a gay guy. Like,
yeah, it's very,
there's
very
ambiguity there.
Yeah, there's no, and it's Omar is like one of the most loving, positive, incredible human beings that I ever met in my life. I mean, it's just nuts. He exudes. I mean, like this is Omar angry.
He's good. Yeah, yeah. He's just
That's
good.
An impression. That was my impression of Omar angry. Hi guys. Like,
yeah,
he's awesome, man. He's Omar is the shit. But yeah, so it's crazy that they kind of kept it kind of more hush. I mean, it makes sense again with the way the world was at the time.
And also, again,
it wasn't the thing.
Started out as a Bible company, so like,
wow. Well, I'm proud of the fact that like people who know that, and despite that, they still like maintain. Like for you, that must have been a really like scary time, but at the same time, like you knew that this is something that you have to do to kind of move forward with your life, and so you kind of kept going anyway. And that's,
I didn't. Courage. It wasn't like when I was selling books, like, it wasn't something that that I was addressing in my life.
Okay.
I honestly wasn't really addressing anything emotional in my life at that time. Like I was in full survival mode person. Like I saw everything very black and white. I saw it almost like my life almost like as a tunnel. And there's 2 directions, up and down. And either you're doing up things or you're doing down things, and that you're going this direction, and everything you do gets you to this direction. And so, you work 80 hours a week in the summer, and you run between doors, and you save as much money as you can, and then you study as hard as you can, and you go to school, and then you recruit, and then you have a break where you do Sizzler, and then you're like, yay, and then you get back to work, and then you do the summer. And there wasn't a lot of like, I think when you come from a family who, when I transferred from junior college, finally to San Francisco State, I remember, figuring out that it was at 10 cents a copy. It was cheaper to photocopy all the pages out of my math book at the library if I paid myself minimum wage and the 10 cents than it was to buy the book. So I would go into the library and sit and photocopy and staple together each week's thing so I could afford the book for my math class, so I could pay my rent. And I saved my Trader Joe's bowls because I didn't have any bowls. So
survival mode indeed.
Yeah. So it was like everything. I got to have time to think about my like feelings. It was just, yeah.
Wow. That you are an impressive person. Holy moly. Wow, this is so cool. I'm so glad to get to know you. This is so fun. I enjoy everybody's life, and their story has been such a fun way to interact in the show. And I'm happy that you're sharing, because this is cool. Yeah. There's people that are listening to this that are going to get motivated, that are going to get inspired by this. So I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for
one thing I would share, and one of my favorite things that I would do every year when I sold books is we all sit down in that house with that family that really should get, but they can't afford it.
Yeah.
We all have that house. Well, I would mark that on my maps, and then I'd pick that house at the end of the year, and I'd go back, and then I would ask that family if I could hire their kid to help me deliver, and then I'd give them free books. And then during that week that I'd have that kid with me, we'd listen to a lot of books on finances and just growth and put in the mort tape and all those things. And then I would take them school clothes shopping, and I'd be like, you get to buy whatever you want. And so it was like their first time having the cool Nike shoes, and so I would do that with a kid at the end of the summer, one kid every single year. And like, it was just, I wanted like that kind of feeling to be like, I'm going to get the cool shoes. And like it Southwestern gave you that ability to do that. It was really
very, very, charitable culture for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. That is so cool. I've heard of people giving away the free books, but taking the kid and treating them to a shopping experience.
It's heavy, loading your car, and you got all that stuff, and then you're running from and all the heavy books and the delivery, and then trying to read. Back when I was doing it, my phone didn't tell me where to go. I had a fucking paper map that I was like doing this while I knee driving, okay? Like with my seatbelt off, because why put that on? Because you're only going 3 blocks. And like, and so if you had a kid there, like that could help load, like it made sense.
Just, yeah, I can relate. In 2012, we didn't have the iPads yet. We were still doing the maps. You're like, where the fuck am I? How do you read a map? We had to teach kids how to read a map when you were going to go take them to sell books, because they didn't know how to do that, because they've been using GPS their whole life. And it's like, no. That's not how it works. Listen, here's a map. They make these. Yeah. Go to a gas station and ask for a map of the town. What do you mean? Just go to the gas station and ask for a map. They have those. Yes. Just go. God. Yes. Yeah. So I feel you. And those books are heavy. The heaviest part of the summer, like the most physically draining part of the summer, was always deliveries.
Yeah, I'm a 5 foot tall girl. I'm not real big, you know?
Oh yeah. No, the books were almost as tall as you. Like you'd have to like carry the things, you know. That's tough.
You
And
get pretty
honestly,
jacked by the end of the summer especially only on the right side, right?
Yeah, no, I understand. And this is probably going to make me sound like an asshole, but like, so when I went sold books, I was in college, I was lifting weights. I was a strong 5'10" man. You know what I'm saying? And we'd have like little Susie here, 5'2", you know, weighs 90 pounds. And the tote that she's carrying is 80 pounds. I'm like, any girl that can sell books and deliver fully, fucking hats off. That is, you are a badass right there. Everybody, even if you sold one summer and you completed one summer, let alone 8, like just like hats off. You deserve all of the accolades. You're a badass, because it was heavy for me, right? And I weighed 200 pounds of muscle, in college, fit, I could bend, I was still flexible, I could still pick up shit. Like that was impressive for sure. God, Margie, you were the shit. We need to hang out. I need to go to LA and come say hi to you and give you a big ass high five and a hug. Now that it's legal, right?
No, it's legal. Yeah, now that we can touch.
Wow. So okay, all right. Let's we could still revisit and touch back to some of these stories that are super. I mean, 8 summers is a lot of stories, but also I want to hear about how did your career progress, and then when you left college, fill us in on what happened up until when you started It's Not Trash. Like fill that gap in for me.
Ooh, okay.
And one sec, while you're doing that, I'm gonna grab my water. I can still hear you. I'm just gonna grab my water bottle. Okay, go ahead.
It was Omar and I were gonna possibly work together for my 9th summer. I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do, and realized I was done with college. It wasn't for me, and I was kind of like not quite sure. Who I was with, Sweat, kind of fell apart. So then I was going to be, integrated into Omar's org. But I knew it was time for me to leave. But I didn't really know where to go or what to do. So I ended up working with I did business to business sales for a second, selling credit card processing, but it was so dishonest. Like, you really made a higher commission by the least good you did for them. And the more good you did for a business, the lower your commission. So you were incentivized to like help them as least as possible. And I'm like, this is not me. And then I kind of bounced around doing some random stuff. And then I ended up, Roy Lofton had me jump on with Family Heritage, and I sold the cancer insurance for like 3 summers, or 3 years rather, doing the door-to-door with that. I was good. And then Roy ended up with another company where I sold digital signage advertising in hospitals. And he kind of called me because they're starting some stuff on the West Coast. He's like, Marge, you can sell anything. So, and I had with 30 hospitals, and it did pretty well with that. But during kind of this whole time, I had a hobby, because kind of going backwards, my grandfather is a large redwood sculptus, and I'll circle this whole conversation. It'll make sense in a second. And he was across the street from the high school. And like, if you've ever seen like the original Dr. Dolittle or Planet of the Apes, and Charlton Heston sees the Statue of Liberty, he's like, no, my grandfather made that Statue of Liberty. So and all my uncles were all labor kind of guys, welder, spiral staircase stuff, like cool art. And that was my after school job with my grandfather. So I grew up in more of an art builder, with your hand, hard worker, kind of just grab a shovel and do it. My dad paid for our family by going to the dump and recycling metal. Like, you see those Hispanic guys in their truck, and it's just piled with found like metal pieces. Like, my dad kind of did that, and would always finding things. And so I knew how to make and fix things and find things. So while I was trying to have a corporate job, because I wanted to be this suit business person so bad, I did all these years of Southwestern because I wanted to be this really generic, you get a college degree and then you do an interview, and then there's like 4 more interviews, and you have this special resume and all that stuff, because I really wanted that life. I would drive in the streets of LA into the alleys, and I would find a broken piece of furniture, and I'd fix it and sell it on Craigslist. And I used it as petty cash, like to go to a concert, and I'd make like $300 a month or something like that, or, whatever, just fun money that was under the table. And so I'm focusing on, building my career where I wore a suit and talked to marketing directors of hospitals, while I'm on the weekends messing around with broken garbage that I'd find in the streets of LA. And then people kind of kept calling me and being like, well, could you make this? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And then I had this huge light bulb moment, because it's all, you hear the cliche starving artist. And it dawned on me that artists are starving because they focus on their product. And I knew sales intimately. I knew how to build and develop a business intimately, and client acquisition and cost of production, and like all of these things. And the reason why artists don't typically make it is because if you got an iceberg, the tip is that product, right? But that only stays above the water because of all this other stuff that's so important. Yeah, the books were good, but if you just opened the book at the door, you never got to sit down. It wasn't the product. It was the why that sold the product, and it was you and the relationship. And the number one reason why somebody buys something is because they like you. And so it just dawned on me that like I could be an artist who made a living if I made sure my product was good, but I did all those other things, and I gave myself the advice that, because kind of at that point I had made it to being more like a VP of sales consultant, and I was building up and developing sales teams for the digital signage world. And I'm like, screw that. Why am I doing this? Why am I holding on to this weird dream that successful means a suit and a 401k? I already gave up the fact that there was going to be no man with a briefcase, because that was not my future. But like, I really was like, I had such a narrow vision of what successful was. It was so Hollywood that I all of a sudden, I kind of like, I had got to, I said, that narrow vision of like up or down. I was at the top now. I wasn't in this yes or no. I wasn't in survival mode. And so I'm sitting next to this hole that I had made it out of. I'm a successful person, and there were so many directions to go. And I just was like paralyzed by choice, because I wasn't having to make survival type decisions. And I was like, I like this. And any business is finding a need and then filling that, right? Mm-hmm. And so where I saw a need was that 85% of the United States household income, according to our census, is under $150,000 a year. And everything created for those households is built with built-in obsolescence in mind. It's designed to fiscally enslave people by their purchases, from their washer and dryer to their refrigerator to their car. Like, we don't need there to be an electric button to scoot your seat forward. It can slide on rails that don't break, but we make it so it will break, so then that way we can create another job. And that's ruining our planet. We're destroying our planet for future generations with single-use plastics to create jobs of people making single-use plastics. And I was fixing all this broken furniture because it was literally designed to break. And so I was like, well, what if I took people's trash, redesigned it into something that would never break again, and then sold it back to them for the same price that they paid at Living Spaces? Could I still be profitable? Because if you look at the industry, when you think of like a carpenter, because this is my subtle female power move that I do on occasion, because I'll get people on Instagram, yo, bro, your stuff's thick. And I'll be like, thanks, ma'am. Lady, I really appreciate the compliment. It's really nice to have another girl tell me how great I am. And like, full well knowing they're a dude, but they misgendered me.
Yeah.
And carpenters, they're like, I want it to be perfect. I want to make it out of walnut. I want to do this. I want to sell it to the top 15%. I want to work with an interior designer. And so that market's flooded. Okay. And then there's IKEA and Living Spaces and Ashley making particle board crap, Wayfair, for everybody else. And they would like something that's not designed to break. And so I was just like, well, there's a need. All those people want real wood. And if my material cost is cheaper, then I can do that. And if I don't try to make as much money as I can, but I make as much money as I should, where I'm fiscally free and have freedom, because money, again, is a tool. And what do I want out of money? What level of money is going to make me have this freedom that I've always wanted? And then I just make that much, and then make sure the rest goes to the other people who need it. And
wow. Sorry, go on. That's amazing. This is so
one
cool
of my
story.
One of my favorite things I like to say, and I think this is a really sickness or distortion that we have, is that if I asked you, I told you a story about a person who has 1 million newspapers in their house. They're all stacked up everywhere in their house. They're surrounded by newspapers. And that person swears to you that they're going to use them and they need them. They're not sure where, but they're going to need them. What would that person be classified as?
A hoarder.
Okay, now I
is what
want
people
you
would say.
to take the visual image of newspapers and I want you to replace it. Instead of a million newspapers stacked up, a million crisp $100 bills. Is that person now rich or are they a hoarder?
Now they're considered wealthy, intelligent.
No, they're a hoarder.
They're still a
They
hoarder.
didn't change. The definition, just because that paper is not printed newspaper, news, now it's printed currency. It doesn't make them wealthy. They're still a hoarder because it's a tool and it's meant to be used. And if it's sitting in their house not being used, they're sick.
It's fair. That's a great perspective. That's a great perspective, especially for people who, I heard someone once say, money just makes you more of who you are. Right.
Yeah.
And so, it sounds like there's definitely people out there in the world who make money who then pay it forward and keep enough.
If
And
you're
then there's
making
people-
$1 million a year and you're using that as a tool to create jobs and reforest places and do cool stuff, then good, you get to have all those tools. But like if I gave you 1 million hammers and you didn't know what to do with those hammers, and then you're like, well, I don't want anyone to take my hammers because these are my hammers, and you put them in a storage unit, you're just a hoarder.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've all knocked in a house like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we know what they look like. Yeah, for sure. I love that. I love that perspective. That's good.
I have a contract now that I'm 9 years into having my company with a demolition company. So they tear down houses and buildings and then they clean the wood and then I buy it from them. And we build over 100 items of custom furniture every single month.
That's bananas. Here,
and
you
then-
mind if I share? I'm going to share your Instagram because
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. Let me put it up on the screen. If you're listening on Spotify, the video's there. Otherwise, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can go to YouTube. We are about an hour and 6 minutes in. If you want to fast forward to, and there's going to be a chapter in the description below that you can click on and go to this spot where I'm sharing the screen now. I'm just kind of like cruising through your Instagram page right now. This is so cool. So how big is how many people do you have working on this? Like who helps you with this? How's your company structure?
I
How does it work?
just went from having 6 people down to 3. I just shrank down a little bit just because I just needed to slow down. I'm learning how to say no a little bit more. I'm being a little bit more selective with some of my clients. But I think one of the biggest things I kind of thought of early on is I created a Build-A-Bed, kind of like a Build-A-Bear. So when you go on my website, you want a bed, you literally fill out a form and you go, I want a king size bed. I want the headboard wood to be in a diamond, or I want it to be in patchwork. And then I want nightstands attached to it. And like, it tells you the pricing as you fill out the form.
Okay.
So you're able to customize every single aspect of your bed.
That is so cool. I'm going to see if I can share your website. That's what I was looking for. The link. Here it is. Boom. There we go. You go here. So if you're listening and you're interested in this, this is amazing. So you go in here and you go get started and you essentially can plan exactly how you want. Look at this. This is amazing.
And so then, once you submit that, it's kind of like the rough plans. And then I get on the phone with you and then we work through exactly what you want through photographs. And then we send you images as we build your bed step by step. So you get to watch it being made or your table, and then we deliver it. I don't do shipping because, again, that's not green. If you're a green company and then you bubble wrap something and then box it up in plywood and then put it on a diesel truck, are you green? Like,
right.
So what I've decided to do instead is to create authorized manufacturers. So oftentimes, back to like artists being really good at their craft but not good at the business side, is and I just opened up my 3rd location. He worked for me for 3 years, and then he wanted to ask his girlfriend to marry him and start a family. And so he started It's Not Trash 3. And so he runs his own location. He's his own LLC. I take 10% off the top because he's using my platform and my social media and like my designs. But then he runs the business all on his own. And now he's a stay-at-home dad and makes a living. My second location was my mom. After we all grew up, she did what most moms can do, which would be, a home care provider that don't have an education. She's making like $14 an hour. And I'm like, that's not cool. So I helped my mom start It's Not Trash too. And she does all of San Francisco and like Northern California. And she's 66 and she takes a job she wants to take and she makes enough money to support herself. And my sister-in-law worked for her and my grandma. So that's like a lot of women building things.
That is so awesome. That is the impact that you are having on your family.
Yeah, that
alone.
last one, if you go back one, those legs were pulled off a sofa on the side of the road.
So everything's repurposed. Everything's
not everything. So like those handles I bought off from Jeff Bezos because that's what the client wanted. So
I see. Okay.
I'm not gonna limit and like be a purist. You know what I mean? But everything that we can. I have a bunch of handles in my truck right now that I pulled off of a broken thing on the side of the road. But if somebody doesn't want that, then I'm going to give them, specifically the handles that they wanted for their dresser.
That makes sense. So as much as it is in your control,
even down to the rags that we put the stain and coloring come from the textile dumpster down the road. I'm in a warehouse area and they cut patterns for fast fashion and they're just like tons of waste of rags. So we just go pick up a bunch, throw it in the back of the truck, and that's what we use to put our stain on. Most of my paint is found from the side of the road or like the Buy Nothing Facebook groups. So, and then if you take paint and you mix it with water, it turns into a wood stain. And so, and then oftentimes those are in cans that aren't sealed very well. And to keep the paint from drying out, I'll take my kombucha bottle and then dump the paint into that so it's sealed. When we mix paints and stuff like that, those are from leftover Solo cups from parties or, my staff all brings in their spaghetti, jar thing. So we try and I probably have about, I would say maybe 10 bags of trash total for the entire month. And then even my actual wood waste, the pieces that I can't use, I have an ad for free firewood. And so people come and families heat their homes or do bonfires or whatever with my wood waste.
Yeah. That makes sense. But nothing really goes to waste. Everything's.
Yeah. I mean, and you can't, I always tell people, you can't be perfect. You're never going to be perfect. And so let's not get on ourselves for the things that are failures, but just celebrate where our successes are and then look at what can you do better? How can you be more green? What else can you do?
Yeah, this is so cool. And look at you got a ton of followers. You're crushing it.
So my queen beds start at $450.
Okay, I was going to ask, what does this cost? Yeah, how much is so queen beds, $450.
Yeah, so if you're going to do a wraparound platform, it just depends on what that had a bookcase built in it. I think that bed was like $1,000.
That's not bad at all.
But it really just depends on what somebody wants. I've always tried to keep the introductory base price really low, so then that way I don't alienate that subset. But then that bed right there is made out of all brand new wood. I went to a 5th generation lumber store called Bonhoff and bought ash. And that went in like a big old ass rich home. And that's what the client wanted. And so that's why I made him. So that bed is 90% made out of brand new wood.
Wow, this is so
but
cool.
The magnet was from the side of the road. So
yeah,
because there's always stuff.
Question for you. If I wanted like a cool backdrop that said in neon, like Ponytails Podcast or something, like this, and I went into LA and picked it up. You don't have to ship it. I will pay
Well,
for
I
that.
could probably just have my Reading location make it for you, and then you'd only have to go to Reading.
Yeah,
Unless you
that's
want
fine.
to go to LA, but like it's not something that you can
Shit.
put on a plane. So it'd be easier on the environment if you did it from the Reading location.
Or like something that said like Ponytails podcast, and I could just hang it up back here and have it be from you. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
I'd pay for that. Let's do it. That'd be so fun. Wow, you're amazing. This is the coolest thing. This is so cool.
I feel totally incredibly blessed to be able to run a business where, you know, I make a ton of money, but I make enough money that we're able to do all the cool shit that we want to do. Also married a CPA, so, you know, marry up. Like, she's super smart. And checks all my disability boxes. Everything that she's not good at, I'm good at, and everything that I suck at, she's great at. We've been together 15 years.
Wow.
So
That is awesome.
All the art behind me in my home is all traded. So when I find somebody's an artist, or I'll find somebody's an artist, I'll reach out to them and I'll build them something in exchange for art.
So you're keeping art alive, and your philosophy in life is super cool. Just have enough to do the things that you want to do, no more, no less, and then anything beyond that is gifted back.
Be a conscientious capitalist. Every business person knows that, like, you've got your reoccurring costs and then you've got your fixed costs. Your rent doesn't change because you did more production, right? And so at a certain point, you look at, like, say, how many clients you have, and you go, okay, how much do I spend per client if my average amount of clients is 40? And then you divide up that fixed cost, and then you get your labor costs and things like that. But at a certain point, you kind of take care of your fixed costs, and like you have a really big month. Now you made all this money this month. Should you keep all that? No, you didn't do that by yourself. You have a team of people under you that did that. And so then you bonus that out to your staff.
And distribute it.
Because you did it as a team.
Yeah. The way that we run the show here, so we're fully out. This is my full-time job. So
yay!
Yeah.
Look at you, and you're also an artist who pulled it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to plug my book. So I wrote a book last year. Is
it in auditory form?
It will be, actually. So I'm releasing a new podcast, a separate podcast that it's more general. So this not, because this is pretty niche. Southwestern people, which hopefully becomes more general. But anyway, I'm releasing a podcast, and I'm releasing the audiobook through that podcast. That's where that idea came from. So I'll chapter will be an episode. I'll listen to it as soon as I
can hear it.
Yeah, it'll come out. It's actually probably going to come out at the beginning of April is what I'm looking at. I'm going to release the first 5 chapters, hopefully, and then some commentary on it, and then just some lessons learned because it's about my family moving from Colombia to here, and we were going to get murdered. It's a whole thing. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
So, yeah, we didn't get murdered. Yeah. Well, we survived, which is
winning.
Alive. And so, but so it kind of follows the story of my parents about moving here culturally, being, in a weird spot. We moved from Colombia, mountain, luscious green, jungle, Bogota, big city, right, to Grand Island, Nebraska, flat corn, no, very white German heritage town, you know what I'm saying? So the culture shock, talking about like how they kept going. And I did that, and that was last year. And then we started the podcast, and then we went full time. I went full time, but what leads me to that is like, so I wanted to do it so this podcast makes it so I make just enough to be able to live okay in Portland and do all right and provide for my wife, and the rest of it, like I feel like I paid my team pretty well. And we keep only what we need so that we can continue production on the show. People think it takes a lot of money to run a podcast. It does if you want to do it right. And so to the level, at the quality that we're doing it costs a little bit. Like it's not cheap, right? But I don't need anything much nicer than this. You know what I mean? Like so we try to keep as little as possible or just enough, and then pay my team for their job. And so I'm with you on that train where it's like, paying people fairly and paying them for what they're doing, and they will they work really hard. My team, and shout out to Naomi and Heather and Nick right now. They work really, really hard to make sure that this happens, because there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Yeah.
It's,
Again,
you
the
know,
product is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much under the water holding everything up.
yeah. And people listen and they're like, oh, 2 hours. And it's like, it's like, do you know how much it takes? Like, this is the best part. This is the easy part, right? It's to even just to even get the thumbnail for your episode on, it costs money to do it well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To make it so it looks like you want to listen, or whoever they are,
How did you always know that you wanted to go into like verbal media, or?
That's a funny way to put it. So to answer that, technically is a yes. My dream is to be a stand-up comedian. I don't need to be famous. I don't need to be like, George Carlin famous or anything like that. But it would be cool to be able to pay comfortably my bills and travel telling jokes to people. And I had been doing that with another book guy that we've had on the show, Brandon Q. Yeah. And when I was living in Lincoln, I was paying my bills with my comedy money. But then the pandemic hit.
Yeah, that's rough. So you pivoted.
And then so I had to shift gears, and I was doing like I said, I was in finance a little bit, so that was supporting a lot of it. And then because of the pandemic, I was bored at home, and I thought it was I always had a good time meeting new book people, and I always realized there was always like this really cool connection from this. Like, look at this, we're an hour and 20 minutes in. I've never met you in my life, and we're having this really cool conversation, but it's all based on the connection that we sold books at some point in our lives, and we didn't even sell books together.
It takes a special person to do that, like that. I don't know, like. If somebody sold for like 2 to 3 summers, like I would get in the car with them with a perfect stranger at a bar, like Kate, like, because there's just like, I've always felt like if I put you on a plane, gave you a bag of books, and put a parachute on you, just kicked you out somewhere, you'd find a place to live, you'd make $1,000 minimum a week, you'd be perfectly fine.
Even without Wi-Fi, like I could do it. Yeah, I wouldn't need internet. I just need a bag.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's a lot of people who can just kind of like, yeah, sure, I'll figure it out. And so there is something really special about book people when you go out with. There's like always like a magical thing that kind of happens, because like you end up with something free, or you end up into something, because we're such persuasive people.
Yeah. But not in like the manipulative way, but in the way of like in the confident way of like, listen, I know something that you don't, and I know it's good for you, and I don't care if you listen to me or not.
Well, and I think
confidence is like huge, I don't know.
Southwestern is always, whether it's the Christianity or not, but there is a level of there's the whole thing's grounded on ethics. It's all about doing good,
Yeah.
And like a lot of door-to-door sales stuff is like, just go out and make money. And it was go out and help people educate their kids. Like, it was grounded in like, make the world a better place. You're doing good, do good.
Yeah.
And so
like, genuinely, you could tell that they meant
do
that.
Good.
Yeah.
And the greatest salesperson in the world, I think I read, I'll greet this day with love in my heart more times than I can count. And like, I feel like book people greet the world with love in their heart. I haven't really met too many like evil book people. Like, they're just good people. They want to make the world better.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, I'm sure because statistically there has to be 1 or 2 bad apples or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, generally speaking, if you meet a book person, there is something. And I think it was Lee McCroskey that had said that, like, he's like, if I meet a book person, even if I make a ton of money or not, it doesn't matter. Like, regardless of where I am in life or where they're at in life, you can be like, you cried at a corner on a Tuesday in the rain after mom told you no. And I know you did, because I did. We all did.
Yeah. Yeah. There's it's almost like like sometimes people and wore like their platoon or the people there, they had this really special connection. It's kind of like you went to, and that's horrible to say, but you kind of started off like we were in a cult, like kind of we're in a cult. Like,
Yeah.
like I will occasionally have a book dream. And to this day, and I'm like at a picnic bench, and like a dad would give me an objection and I'll just show a new section and close again, and then he'll give an objection and then I'll show a new section, and I'm like in this repeat of showing a new section, and I just keep closing and it's like this, and I wake up and I'm like or like there's certain neighborhoods that I'll drive through and I'll have a little bit of PTSD. I'm like, oh my God, no.
Yeah. You ever see a good door, like when you ever go to a friend's house or something like that? You're like, oh, I want to knock on it. Not even to sell anything. I just like, man, that looks so knockable. Like,
so one of the really random things that like I do, we haven't done it for a couple years and we need to redo it, is I love pumpkin seeds, but like you only get so, and like when you actually make them in the oven, but you only get so many seeds from a pumpkin. And even after Halloween or Thanksgiving, you can't buy a shitload of pumpkins to make like an entire bag. So I would go to the rich neighborhoods where they have like all the pumpkins and like somebody bought them and decorated right after Thanksgiving. It was my truck, and I'd go knock on the door, take 3 steps back, turn to the side, wave, wait for them to open up the door. And I'd be like, are you guys going to be throwing away or getting rid of your pumpkins? And they're like, what? And they're like, why do you want them? I'm like, I like making pumpkin seeds and it's too expensive to buy a bunch. And I'll point to my truck that's got like pumpkins in it. And like, I'll go pick up like 50 pumpkins. My wife sits next to the dumpster with a knife, digging out pumpkin. We'll make like a huge bag of pumpkin seeds, and like such fun memories. But like that would be if you paid $10 a pumpkin at 50. It's like $500 of the pumpkins. Instead, I just spent like 4 hours knocking on rich people's doors, taking their pumpkins after Thanksgiving.
That's exactly right. That is
and
exactly
this is just
right.
stuff that I can do because of Southwestern. Knocking on a stranger's door is like not weird.
Yeah, it's not scary even. Like my wife sometimes is like, she's just kind of like, how did you do it? And it's I almost wanted to be like, because I have like a stack of books. I don't always have too many, because people can just get it on Amazon, but I order like author copies. And like I was telling her, I was like, you know what we should do here in Portland, especially where they are super about local artists and local people.
Yeah.
I'm like, we should just go door to door down a freaking neighborhood and just be like, hey, my name's Andres. I don't know if you've heard of me, but I'm the one that's been talking to all the families here in the neighborhood. I'm an author, and so we're just collecting donations in exchange for the book. It could be $1, it could be $30, whatever you want. But I'm a local author, and I live here on the street. Is that something that you'd be curious, or should I just catch the next person? And I guarantee, she's like, you think we should do that?
You should do that.
I was like, if we did that, especially here, I guarantee you we'd sell out in like an hour. Because it's if they say no, you're like, all right, cool, see you next house. And then if they buy, people here would probably throw a ton of money at it, because it's like, oh, you're local and you're doing this and you're hustling. They appreciate that here, and they would like, here, I'll sign you, I'll give you a signed copy, here you go, like no big deal. And I was like, we should go do that so you can see what it's like, because it's hard to explain.
But
even though
it's whatever energy you're giving out. If you're there to like get something from them, they feel that. If you're there because you're like, genuinely, I want you to have this great experience of my book, I think it will make your life better.
Yeah.
Because that's what you believe. When I was selling cancer insurance, I got to sit down with a guy who owned a carpet cleaning business. And when I went in his office, he had a plaque from Forbes. He was top 500 Hispanic businesses. And I was like, whoa, you're in Forbes? And I was like, if you could give me one piece of advice as somebody who wants to start a business someday. And he said, be pleasantly persistent. Yeah. I'm like, don't sell anyone anything. Just be pleasantly persistent. And I've always that like it's always stuck with me. And like if you want something, if you want to be great, the only person in your way is you.
Gold. I will persist until I succeed.
Yeah, like you just do it. You just one step in front. You know what I mean? Like people. I've tried to have other people, like my business is very franchisable, if you will. Like it's definitely proven duplicatable, and like people are like, I want to do that, but like I don't have this tool, I don't have that tool. And I'm like, when I started, I had a Ryobi skill saw and a drill and a sander, and I was on my fire escape of my apartment building. What excuse do you have?
Yeah. Oh
Like,
gosh. It's
the
easy to
neighbors
find an
downstairs
excuse.
complained about the dust coming through their window below. So
Yeah.
then I just made sure I did it when the wind was blowing the other way.
Yep. And you make it work, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
I can relate. I've had friends who, like, and I have one that actually took me up on it, but I've had a couple other people who are like, I want to start a podcast, but I just don't have a microphone. I'm like, dude, when we started, I had a 2013 old Mac. The camera was like, if you go back and you look, it's like garbage quality. We had nothing. We
Yeah.
had a Zoom meeting and I had headphones. Like, that was it, and you could hear the dog in the background. And like, I mean, you still can hear the dog in the background, but that's okay. Like, it does just start doing it because you love it and you care, and it means something to you, and it won't ever stop.
Did you read that one that you are becoming what you are someday going to be?
Yeah, the common denominator or success or something. What you're someday going to be.
That's in there. That that successful people do the things that unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. But people, it's like you are becoming what you're someday going to be, and what you are doing now is exactly what you're going to be someday, unless you do exactly what you need to do to become who you want to be, because you are becoming exactly who you're going to be, because you are becoming like that. I read that thing so many times, and I still like give that to my staff members when I first hire them. And
that's
like,
awesome.
I'm like, I've had a lot of people come and go. There's like, I have, one guy, he's almost 60, from El Salvador, 6th grade education, amazing carpenter. And he's at the top of where he's going to be. This is his home, but then I have a lot of people who want to be actors or this or that. And like, I'm like, okay, well, you're here until you get this stuff to go get lost. This is my dream, not your dream.
Right. It's
And
just a step.
Do the things.
It's a step.
This is where you can pay your bills for now. So then that way you can get that other stuff, but you need to be doing something towards your dream and go. And I said earlier that my staff, I've just decreased my head manager. When she came to me, just the reason why women make 77 cents to the dollar compared to men. Like, I interviewed her and I said, I can start you at 11 because you don't know you don't know that much about building and carpentry. And, once you get better than I can pay you minimum wage. And she goes, okay. And I said, okay, can you please tell me why you're not worth minimum wage? And she says, well, I'm still learning. And I said, did you know that women make this compared to men? And she goes, yeah. And I'm like, you're the reason. And she goes, what? And I said, no man I've ever interviewed accepted less than minimum wage. And you just sat here and said that you would. So why are you worth less than a McDonald's worker?
Yeah.
And then I said, we're going to do this again. And then we're going to role play negotiating how much I'm going to pay you per hour.
That's beautiful.
And then
that's beautiful.
A couple years in, she came to my wife and she's like, I have this much debt and I don't know how to get out of it. And like, she had 29% interest rate on credit, like dumb, and like just didn't understand. So we went through that. We called them, we got things lowered. She's almost out of debt, and she got the certifications this year for doing project management in like the tech world. And she just got a job offer for $77,000, and they're doing her, and she's moving on. And does it suck that I'm losing my shop manager? Yeah, but I was not going to be able to pay her $77,000 a year. And she's like, going on to be an adult and have a career and like have her life and her dream. And her credit score is in the high sevens now. Like, you know, when she came to me, there was like 450. So just pushing people on to do the things that they should do to become who they want to become.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think what you just said there is key. Of like, life doesn't give you what you deserve; it gives you what you let it give you, what you expect it to give you, right? And so, if she was going to let you do 11, which you weren't never going to, you were just trying to show her, but like, she would have just taken that 11 from someone else, you know, instead of going, no, my value is important and it's worth it. Even though I'm inexperienced, there's still something here worth having, right? And that's a key lesson even I need to take personally. I think that you just struck a chord in my head. I think that's important, because sometimes I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh man, but like, why would people pay for this podcast? Like, why would people sponsor us? Like, why would people? And then I'm like, no, you know what? This is valuable. Like, every time I've had a guest on here, they've all said, this is really cool that we're doing this. Everybody's super glad that we're letting people share their stories. Everybody's super excited to hear the episodes. The viewer count speaks for itself. It's going up every time. Every episode, it seems like it's just increasing. Like, yes, it's worth that. And there's value in what we're doing. And even if one person that listens to this podcast listens to one episode, maybe this one or maybe the next one, and it changes the way that they think about their life, or something that inspires them to go do something bigger, then that was worth it. You know what I mean? And I forget that. And you just reminded me of that. So thank you.
Yeah. And I think for me, one of the things I recognize when I listen to some of the stuff, some of the different episodes, is just that, like, and now that I'm an adult, like, I don't have kids, I don't want kids, but I have like nieces and nephews. I have a niece that's just finishing high school this year, and I'm like, she should go sell books. And then I'm like, dude, that's fucking crazy. Like, there's the internet now, and like, then I go, but there's all the reasons back when I was doing it, and it's selling books is like not about selling books.
Yeah.
It's about learning how to manage your emotions. It's learning about managing your time. It's learning about talking to people from all different socioeconomic backgrounds. It's about being out of your comfort zone. It's about perseverance, about understanding the law of averages, and that Kaya Grady said, you may not get paid for what you do today, and you may not get paid for what you do tomorrow, but you always get paid for the time you put into something. And like, if you just keep your eye on that prize. And there has not been a day in my life that some type of sales or success principle that I took from Southwestern hasn't been applied. I am successful because of the tools that were given to me from Southwestern. I don't know that I would have made it out of poverty. My brothers and sisters, like I said, they didn't sell books, and they're all not where I am. They're all very much in the same level that they were raised in, and they're great people, and I love them, but they don't get to, like, my wife and I were going to go down the Amazon for her 40th birthday on a Smithsonian cruise, like at the end of this year. And we get to do all kinds of cool stuff because of the tools that I learned to have the income to be able to experience so many things that's amazing. And it really is from Southwestern. Like, I made it out of poverty because of Southwestern.
Yes. I think that's the coolest thing about what I'm noticing here is that arch. The trajectory of your life completely changed because Andrew was like, hey, what are you doing this summer?
Yeah. What do you do? Yeah. And I remember them like saying, is there anybody sharp from back home when you're home for the holidays? Like, say, hey, go sell books. And I was just that person. And like, it.
Wow. And to come full circle on this, and then we can get into some ponytails, like to like the ponytails part of the episode. You were the person that he didn't say no to you. He might not have kept up with your parents' stuff. He might have not kept up with your training, or where you're bouncing around at the beginning.
Yeah.
But one thing he didn't do that was good was he didn't say no for you.
Yeah.
Like you
He just
were,
was like,
because he could have just
oh,
been like, oh, she goes to junior college, she's
yeah.
blah 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 blah. Nah, he just said, hey, do you want to try this? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. He didn't follow.
Yeah,
along
no,
the
I
way
wasn't.
normally.
I wasn't the smart kid. Like I
Yeah.
didn't like. I mean, I was really good at sports, and he knew that I had good perseverance, and like we'd known each other since junior high. But like, I mean, I think about like going into different classes, business classes, and handing out the surveys. And do you want a college internship? Like I didn't even know it was a college internship. I just thought it was a job. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go do a job.
Yeah.
Like this is my summer job, and
Oh my!
it was a good summer job. Like
Yeah,
I could make a lot of
Yeah.
Actually, the night that I left, I was out in Santa Cruz. That's where I grew up, at a dance club. All my friends, school's over. They're all going to go to the beach and surfing, and we're like going to go dancing all summer and hang out. I'm like, I'm 20 years old. I'm like, I remember it was like 1 a.m. It was just before like kind of like last call, and we're all dancing, and I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta drive down to SLO, and like I'm leaving for the summer. And I remember turning back and looking at them and going, they're gonna have fun, and I'm gonna be a door-to-door salesperson. Fuck, am I nuts? And I'm like, no, I gotta pay for college. They have mommies and daddies that are gonna pay for that. I don't have that. I gotta go. And I just like walked off the dance floor.
And then it was just this
Yeah.
FOMO. And then it turned out to be the thing that changed your life.
Yeah. No, I if I would have done what was easy and what was fun, then I probably would have had a much more average life. And not that that's bad. Like, everybody wants to be at different places, but I didn't want to be average. And I knew I needed to do above average things if I wanted to be above average.
That's the common denominator. I think the thing that you said that brings us all, unites us all, that we all have in common, that the special kind of person that it takes is that person that just, it's like, as long as I'm above average, as long as I'm not average, sometimes I want to be the best in certain things, and we don't have to be, and it's okay if we're not, but as long as we're not average.
Yeah, all Southwestern people, like, they want to be something more. They're not okay with just existing.
Yep. I'm with you. Oh, I love this. This is so cool. It's a pleasure. All right, time to get into. I think it's time to get into the ponytails. What do you think? The ponytails is usually the part where you tell like your favorite stories or your most impactful stories, or like the one big one that was like, oh, this is the thing that I was like changed my life. Now you can think about it. Take a minute to think about it so you can re-jog your memory a little bit. And to give you an idea of what's happened before, like things that people have shared, Yvette shared with us, Yvette Keister, she sold right at the time that you were selling. You might remember her.
Yeah, I remember her.
She told us about the 3 most impactful
Did she marry
lessons.
Matt?
No, she did not marry Matt. They were they were just good friends. Matt was also on the show, and he shared about a time where in the leadership side of Southwestern, where he got like sat down and grilled by all his like people that he'd recruited, like, but who were also leaders, and they like basically ripped him apart and taught him a valuable lesson in leadership. So that was like, that could be a ponytail. We've had people tell us about like the biggest customer they ever had. We had Brandon Q told us about the time he went to jail. It could be, it could be like something similar to your Sizzler story like that, if you have another one of those. But while you think about it, I'm going to talk about our sponsors, and then so take a couple minutes, and then yeah, go for it. Yeah, that's right. So while Margie's taking a potty break, I call it potty break because I'm dog training. She's going to go pee. Well, Margie's going to go pee. Let me talk to you guys a little bit about who we are working with. We love our partners, And just so you guys know, everybody that is partnered with us, all of these people are book people. We've had offers from other companies outside who were like, you guys are having the views that we would like to have to be able to pay you guys for this. And we turned them down because we wanted to keep it in-house. Our mission is to connect the community of Southwestern alumni and make it our network, make it the Ponytails Podcast Network, where people can come and find each other and network through us and through the people that we bring together. And so if you're out there and you're listening and you want to be part of the jockey team, which is our sponsorship team, let us know. If you're not, if you want to be more from the other side, maybe be more of a fan and be connected and plugged in, there's ways that you can do that as well. And you can be a big fan, or you can be just a passive fan. Either way, we appreciate you coming in and listening to what we're doing. And so do the people that we are partnering with. And so the first up that I'd like to talk about, obviously, is Southwestern Real Estate. Very similar story to Marji, where Pat started back when he had no idea about real estate. He had no clue what he was doing. All he knew is that he had a passion for it, and there was something in it that could be profitable and that could be special. And so that's exactly what he did. He created a company where the culture became a very pleasant place to work at. All of the guests that we've had on the show that have worked for Southwestern Real Estate that still do, they all still do, and they all love it. They all love the balance of it. They all like the fact that they could prioritize the most important things in their life, which would be their spouse or their kids, or even the passion that they have in their life, while still being able to be full-time and working a life that paid them enough, and kind of like Marjorie was talking about, that paid them to live the life that they ever wanted. So they are still looking for more agents. They're expanding. It's a massive growth. I started out as a little pebble, and the avalanche turned into what it is now. 14 different states that there are now. And honestly, it's 99% drama free, as Pat would like to say. We love the fact that he says that, because it takes all the really cool parts about the Southwestern culture, no culty part of it, but just a cool part of it, and puts it into a company that does real estate. So if you've always been a fan, if you've been interested, it's a really good way to get into the business. The industry standard is 85% turnaround rate. It's because it's hard. It's a hard industry to be a part of. Southwestern Real Estate has an 85% retention rate. And I always like to mention that, because that speaks to the level of dedication that Pat gave to creating really good culture and making sure that the people that are with him are there to grow as well. So that is Southwestern Real Estate. We also brought to you by Martine and Lukasz. These guys are some book guys who are DJs. And so we like to have sponsors from all the different industries. Of course, everybody needs to have a good time. These guys are fantastic. I love them because they were able to do my wedding, and it was such a special occasion. Obviously, when you get married, that's kind of a big deal. I guess you could say it's getting pretty serious in that between me and my wife, but we got married, and we invited Martine and Lukasz to do our wedding. And it was such a good time. Now, these guys had a tough task. They had to mix in salsa music that was from Colombia, but also, as I like to call it, white people music. And that was a tall order, because they don't listen to country. My wife's family doesn't listen to country. So it's like, how do you mix all this in and still have people dancing on the floor? Well, they did it, and it was a good time. They also did the Freddies. Margie was talking about the dance floor and the dance party that they have with the Freddies. After the show, after the ceremony, Martine and Lukasz were the first DJs ever to do the Freddies, and they're going to be back for next year because they crushed it. But they can also be part of your special event. So if you have a wedding coming up, if you have any sort of event, networking event, if you're just throwing a party, all you got to do is fly them out. They have really, really comparable pricing, really, really competitive pricing. For me, I was able to afford flying them here, paying them, and flying them back while lodging them and feeding them. And it was still cheaper than most of the DJs that I was going to find here locally. And obviously not as trusted, because these guys are book guys. So that was pretty awesome. And then we are also brought to you by Cardinal Senior Benefits. This is through Greta Huerta. Greta was a Latina badass from Texas, and she is one of my favorite people that I've met on the show. She's just crushing and breaking belief barriers. A badass book chick. She's our first Latina and really our first female sponsor, and we wanted to celebrate that because we need more. It's too loaded with dudes. We need too much testosterone. We need some ladies in the house, and we love working with Greta for a lot of reasons. The main reason is because of who she is inside and in her heart. So Greta has a very similar story to myself, and actually to Margie, to our guest today, where she kind of came from not having much and always wanted more for herself, wanted to be above what she knew that was possible and what the standard was in her life at the time. And so she went and sold books, crushed it in the book industry and the book business, and then ended up pivoting and working with Cardinal Senior Benefits. She had multiple options to go to different companies. She decided to go here because of the work-life balance, but more importantly, because while she was able to help people with finance and education and educating them on their finances, she was able to learn it for herself and take advantage of that opportunity that is the industry of the finance world. So there is a lot of money to be made, but that's not the important part. The important part is the way that she appreciated how this company works. They operate by helping people learn about how money works and teaching them to make sure they do better. We were actually talking about this with Margie earlier, where it's just about ignorance and how people don't know much about this. And so Greta is the kind of person that makes sense for this kind of job because of who she is inside. Now, of course, if you are that person, if you're looking to have a very good work-life balance, if you're trying to make it so that you can learn about money, but at the same time teach others about how to use it correctly, and if you're looking to be in a part of a leadership team that's really designed to help you grow while helping others grow, working with high caliber people, and just are loving the fact that it's in sales. You love sales without having to do the cold call part of it. This probably would be a very good fit for you as well. So we can put you in touch with Greta so you can learn more about how to get involved with Cardinal Senior Benefits. She's crushing it. She showed up to this company that was ran by book people and broke it. She broke the company record 2 weeks in a row. And, the effect that Greta has when she got you like that is, when the water rises, when the tide rises, all ships rise. And she was that raising of the water. So when she showed up, it just kind of blew that company out of the water, literally. And so now they're crushing and cruising. So a couple more of our sponsors we can mention here at the end, but we're going to bring Margie back. Hopefully she's thought of some stories. Let's see, here we go. And we're back.
Hey.
Did you think of some stories?
I've got one. We're gonna end with a good funny one. This is probably my most ridiculous house.
Okay, set the scene. Where are we? What summer? What state?
Oh, I think I was in Iowa. 8 summers, they all blur together, and it was a long time ago. Because I was Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Iowa, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Kansas.
You sold in Nebraska?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, I was kidding. That's not bad.
So I know there's a mom. She had two little kids. One was like pretty young, and the other one was like, maybe 3 or 4. And it was those little kids that are just like model cute. Like she had like olive skin, and she had like long wavy hair with kind of the brown streak, and she was this really adorable little girl that was a complete maniac. She's running back and forth. She's throwing things at her mom's head. She's screaming, yelling. She's just like absolute maniac. And the mom is like being so nice, and I'm going through kids' books, and I'm like trying to stay on my script. And like I'm about halfway through the book demo, and then the little girl is like disappeared for a second. She comes back, and she's completely naked, and she's got crap smeared up her back. And I'm like, and the mom's like, oh my God. She's like, excuse me. And I'm like, cool, so like the mom leaves, and I'm sitting there, and like I think it had to been one of my earlier summers, because I remember thinking that I've got to be out of there in 20 minutes. 20-minute demo, got to be the next one, and like checking my watch, and like I'm just sitting there, and I can't just, and like it's like 15 minutes has passed since the mom's been gone. And I'm like, I don't want to just like grab my book bag and leave. Like, because what if she like that person stole something? Like, I'm like kind of like, should I stay? Like, what do I do? Yeah. Finally, like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, the mom comes back. She says, I'll just take this set. And I'm like, great. So I'm like filling out the paperwork. I'm like, I wonder why, or questions and answers, something like that. It's like whatever's medium cheap, just writing me a check. And the little girl comes screaming around the hardwood floor, like skidding, like those dog videos almost, right? And then she gets right in front of us, and she goes, I found the poo. Oh.
Oh my God.
I found she was so proud of herself. Like, I've done it, Mom. I figured out where I pooped.
I did it.
I did it. I found the poo. I have thought about that moment
Oh my God.
so many times in my life because I just like how embarrassing. And I'm like, because I'm like, what? I mean, I'm not like, again, I'm not list of 5 kids. Changing a kid's diaper, like they have blowouts. It's not that big of a deal. You know, like a 3-year-old blowout is kind of like a big blowout. Like you just wipe them up, throw another diaper on, and move on. Like what's 25 minutes? She was searching for wherever that kid had dropped off her shit.
She went somewhere.
She went somewhere.
And the nose wasn't telling her.
Yeah.
And she found the poo. You found a pony. She found the poo.
It's burnt because the kid was so cute. I mean, the kid was like a Brooke Shields child, like beautiful little angel looking kid that was a maniac. And then I just see her and she's like,
glory.
Yeah. So, that was my funniest. That was my funniest moment.
I love that. Oh, I love that. I'm always game for a good poo story for a ponytail. It's fitting. It's fitting. Oh my gosh. Well, Marji, thank you so much. I didn't know, every episode you never know what to expect. You're like, let's see where this goes. And we had a ride. We went from like hearing about your upbringing story, then we had a crazy Sizzler story in there. Then how you started your business was bananas and what you're up to now. We spoke about believing in yourself. Wow, this has been a fun one. I love this. I love my job.
Yeah.
I love my job. Did you have a good time? Was it all right?
Yeah, no, when somebody I knew said, "Hey, there's a Southwestern podcast," I was like, "Yay!" And then like I listened to a couple episodes and then I commented on your thing and I was just like, Southwestern is not for everyone. It's definitely not an internship for everyone. That is it. But if you're somebody who does want to be above average, or you want to change something or be great in some way, this is the vehicle.
Yeah. I think that pretty much it's pretty much said right there what you just said. I think it's perfectly stated what you said. It's not for everyone, but it's a great vehicle to be above average. That is a great way to put it. Brilliant. And like I just like what you said, like everything in my life changed because of that decision, because I decided to go do that. And you didn't really know what you were getting into, but it worked out really, really well in your favor. And now you're doing great things. So let me ask you this. So if people want to, if somebody listening, they want to get in touch, or maybe they want to either start a franchise, or they want to order a piece from you, and they can go, like someone like me who is like nearby who can go pick it up. How can they find you? What's the best way to contact you? How can they like get a hold of you to be able to connect with you?
If you Google It's Not Trash, you'll find me. Instagram, TikTok, like all the social media platforms. I think I'm in the process of copywriting It's Not Trash Designs. So it's in the final stages. So that would be the easiest way to get to it. I really only service California, Oregon, Nevada area. If you're in another state and you don't want to buy particle board, then feel free to reach out to me and I can help you find a local artist in your area or give you the tools. Because a lot of times it's just artists don't know how to represent themselves. So there's a lot of really great probably artists in your area that are garage guys that could build great stuff. Possibly a garage girl, but mostly it's going to be a dude. And it's knowing the right search words and like because buy local. Basically is what I'm saying. Buy local, buy from people who are using supplies locally. We all have to change those purchasing habits. If we don't, then there's not going to be a planet left to buy things in the future. So,
amen to that. And on that note, I'm actually going to bring up our last sponsor, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll end the broadcast here. But it's funny that you said that Save the Planet. Have you remember Julio Hernandez? You must have sold around his time as well. He would have been an Eagle Blitz from Florida guy. He started a company called EnLight.Energy, and it's a solar company. And it's all based on the fact that they're trying to save the planet. So they're crushing it right now. A lot of his agents are making a ton of money, Nick included. And then I do some part-time work with them. I went door to door in Arizona with EnLight, and it was brutal, but a crazy learning experience. And the business is really easy to get into. So if you guys want, and you're interested in learning how to get more out of how much you're knocking, how much you're making out of knocking, make sure you reach out to us. EnLight.Energy is hiring. They're particularly based out of Florida. That's where they're crushing right now, but they just hired someone in Colorado. So they're really available in all 50 states. They can make work for anybody. Reach out to us. Alex Black, Julio Hernandez are the two guys that can pack there, and they are trying to save the world one solar panel at a time, and they are doing a good job. So it's pretty cool. Reach out to us. Marji, thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to wrap up the broadcast, and then I'll speak to you as soon as we're done going live. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Again, this is episode 101 of the Ponytails podcast. My name is Andres Gamboa. Make sure you catch us. We're live every Thursday and Sunday. It's Thursday 7 Central. Sundays usually at 4 Central, but check our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the places social media exists, and we will be there. Ponytails Podcast. And then our website should be coming soon, ponytailspodcast.com. We'll see you guys in the next one. All of Marji's contact information, if you want to reach her, is going to be in the description of the episode on YouTube and all the places below. So you can click on the link and follow and try to get in touch with her so that she can guide you along the way. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one.